Hi everyone. Hi again. I hope everyone is doing okay and we're riding the waves together quite well. I wanted to share something that I keep thinking about during this time. It's really a great way to understand this moment. So I'm going to introduce something called the sensitivity cycle, and that comes from the world of Hakomi. I'm going to have a map of it that I believe was drawn by Ron Kurtz, the creator of Hakomi, and I'm using notes from Susan Santata. So this is what it looks like. Okay. So the essence of what this is in a way you can think of it as optimal functioning for a human being. So ideally, the way that our literal functioning works is we have clarity on what we want. We are effective in taking action to get it. We're then satisfied with the action that we've taken. And then we can relax. And then in that relaxation, we have clarity for the next thing that we want. So let me give you an example of what this might look like. Kind of a playful example. You took a nap, you woke up, you realized you were hungry and you wanted a sandwich. You went to the kitchen and you made a sandwich, and then you were satisfied with your sandwich. And then you relaxed. And then you realized you wanted to talk to a friend. So you called your friend, right? And then you were satisfied, and then you could relax. So ideally, it works like that. And I'm kind of using a broad, like more dense example, but ideally, it gets more and more subtle. So over time, you develop a capacity to really notice deep inside, what do I really want? What is really the next best step for me? And the idea is that this cycle gets more and more subtle, more and more refined. And literally, if you master a cycle like this, you literally master your life because you'll always be taking the time to listen and take action. So this is from Hakomi, but because I always think in terms of the divine feminine, because that's my chosen lens of seeing this world, I see this also as the masculine and feminine play within us. So the clarity of the goal is the masculine, the effective action is the masculine, the receiving of that action is the feminine, and then the deep rest is the feminine. From that deep rest, we have clarity inside of ourselves of the next true goal. So it's this masculine feminine dance as well, is another way to see it. You might notice it doesn't really work that way in the real world, does it? It would be great if it did, but the real world does not often work like that with us. That's why we have all these little tiny barriers. I don't know if you can read that, but they're little tiny barriers to actually achieving the next stage. So, for example, with clarity, we sometimes, if we reach clarity on something that we want, we sometimes have a little response barrier to actually taking effective action. Response barrier is when you know you want something and you just can't get it together to do it. So this also makes me think a lot about life purpose stuff. It's like, I know I want this for my life and my purpose, but I just can't get it together to do it, for example. That's a response barrier. A lot of people are sometimes afraid to take action on things. That's response barrier. Okay, so let's say we do take effective action and we are taking effective action on things, but we don't really reach deep satisfaction for anything that we're doing. That's a nourishment barrier. So that's the inability to actually deeply receive, the blessings of what you're doing in your daily life or what you're putting out into the world or how you live. So that is where a lot of us have barriers in terms of feeling deserving. So we might be taking great effective actions in our lives, but maybe we don't really take the time to feel that sense of deserving that we are receiving. So then we can't reach that deep satisfaction level. So let's say we do reach the deep satisfaction level, but we don't actually finish or we have a completion barrier. So that's kind of an interesting word to choose. I think I might choose a different word, but basically that's like the ability to deeply let go of the whole process and just relax. Like full letting go. It's taking us out of action mode. So if we can't have a completion barrier and completely step out of the action mode, we won't reach that deep relaxation. And it's that deep relaxation where we can actually really get into and feel our insight or our intuition for what the next real right step is, what the next thing that we deep inside actually really want is. So that is the completion barrier. So the inability to stop is like a completion barrier. So let's say we do relax and we are in that relaxation state, but we don't have any idea of what to do next. That's an insight barrier. So that's the inability to really listen, to really go in, to have clarity on what it is that we want. So in working with clients, there are tools and techniques at each one of these barriers, especially through the Hakomi method. So rest assured, there's hope. If you find yourself at any one of these barriers, which we all do at different times, one might be stronger for you than another. Rest assured, there is hope out there that it is possible to work through any of those barriers. However, I want to talk about this moment because something really unique and rare to the entire planet, the entire history of, let's say the last 100-year history, 200-year history of really slowing down, getting into a more slow pace. So basically, in my personal opinion, I think most of the world has kind of been acting on stuck on this part of the loop. So there's a lot of goal setting and there's a lot of action. And the world is kind of running here most of the time. I see, and I've also experienced just that pace that we live in society, which is like, gotta do, gotta move, gotta work, gotta hustle, got to get to the next thing. If I'm not productive, if I spend one day not being productive, it's a waste of a day. So this is really like when you kind of get stuck on this part of the loop. We can also call this, in a way, like just being in the masculine. And we hear so much about the world being patriarchal. This is part of the reason why, because we're just stuck here, right? And that's where this balance is happening in the world. There's just so much action and goal setting and goal orientation and movement, and that's great. That's fantastic. But if you don't have the other part of the circle, the full loop, then you won't really be setting goals that are really going to bring deep satisfaction. You're going to be setting goals that just, I don't know, scratch your itch for 2 seconds and then move on. So where this moment has taken us, essentially, is all of us have been taken to our completion barriers. And maybe for some also we're in a nourishment barrier as well, the ability to just receive. So it's quite amazing for all of society to find itself at the completion barrier. Where literally, I know everyone is in a different moment. There are many that are worried for their health or money, and I don't mean to override that at all. But also remember that, and I'm witnessing that many are just finding themselves at home not doing much and feeling like they still need to be productive, like they still have to do something in the day to make it a worthwhile day. So I wanted to introduce this just so that we have some, let's say, psychological evidence that it might really be okay to do nothing today, to fully rest. And that there's a strange mystery that happens when you take the time to actually be right beyond your completion barrier, to move beyond this thing of having to do, and taking the time to just stop and slow down and be with yourself and then notice what's there. And then you might have a brand new clarity on life. So my personal hope in this moment on the large scale is that we are all kind of in this relaxation, hopefully, like we're in this space where there's less doing, there's more reflection on what really matters to us, what our real true priorities are. I'm hoping that a lot of people in this time start to realize they want to live at a slower pace. Maybe they want to change some things about their life. They're getting a taste of a different way that could be possible. And then hopefully we'll have new collective clarity on what might be a more balanced way of living. Individually, I wanted to offer just a brief, very brief little meditation for you so that we have a tool to rest in our own completion barrier and hopefully move beyond it a little bit. So just to again explain a little bit some of our barriers to reach that deep state of relaxation, it's the capacity to be without having to do. So just to be where you are without having to do anything. It's also the ability to feel finished with all the projects and things we have going on in your life. I know that it's really hard to ever feel like we don't have anything on our to-do list, but it's at least to create the space around the to-do list to just let go, create and own that space of like, okay, now I rest. I don't take any more input. I don't make any more plans. I'm just going to literally own this space of rest. And also part of the completion barrier is the capacity to accept the imperfections of the world and to surrender to things as they are. So this is a really, really good one to reflect on. The part of the reason why we stay in action so much is because it keeps us from feeling deeply. And most of us actually don't really want to feel that deeply. Because when we do start feeling, we find there's a lot there. And actually, it's probably one of the driving forces of this planet to keep moving and moving so we don't stop to feel. But I just wanted to say here and now that when you first start to drop in and feel yourself and feel your body, the first layers might be a lot of pain, a lot of anger or sorrow, fear. You might find initial layers of things that are hard to deal with, but I want to affirm and also say trust that beyond those layers, as you work through those layers, there are many, many, many blessings, many, many beautiful things, and your capacity to feel can become your greatest resource in life, can literally become what makes life good and worth living. And it can realign your priorities and your choices. Because suddenly now you have a new depth, a new capacity to feel on deeper levels that show you maybe it doesn't feel that good anymore to do like how I was doing before. So let's take a moment, and I want to offer just a couple sentences to you. This is also a Hakomi technique. So I'll offer it to you in the state of mindfulness. So the first thing that we're going to do, you can close your eyes if you'd like. And as you exhale, feel as if your whole body is softening. You can take a moment and feel all the points of contact between your body and the chair. And just begin to have a sensation of slowing down and settling in. And as you're here in this space, just begin to notice what's happening inside your body. What sort of sensations are there? What feelings are there? Without trying to change anything. If you find anything very difficult, take a moment and breathe a little more. Feel around that feeling. Give space to that feeling. And then while you rest here in this space, I'm going to say a few sentences. And the intention behind these sentences is for you to study how they land inside your body. So you're listening and observing and feeling and noticing how each one of these sentences feels to you. What is your inner reaction? I'd be really curious to hear in the comments as well what sorts of reactions you're having. So these sentences are specifically aimed at this completion barrier, this capacity to rest and let go. Coming back into that stillness. Notice what comes up inside when I say, it's okay to rest. It's okay to rest. You don't have to be productive. You don't have to be productive. Take all the time in the world now to let what really matters to you arise. So take all the time in the world to let what really matters to you arise. So that's just a simple meditation to begin to create the space for you at home to really start to go in deeper and feel a bit more deeply into yourself and take advantage of this moment when, in a way, we have a giant pause button on the machine. Okay, lots of love to you all.